Hi, my name's Rachel, and today we are going to talk about some issues in monster romance. Recently, a monster romance author posted this, which I'm not going to read out loud for reasons, which caused a lot of very necessary conversations about monster romance on particularly BOOKTOK. But it also helped me learn that every monster romance book I read can be read viewing it through a lens, so I know what to look for when I'm reading monster romance and understand where stereotypes are coming into play specifically with this genre that I might have otherwise missed. So let's talk about it. Let me give you the rundown of what this video is because I am here to review a book towards the end, but we're doing it in a particular way because an author named Zoe Ashwood, who writes monster romance, specifically orc romance, recently put up this TikTok where she talked about writing the next installment in her orc series, and a lot of people were horrified because of the name and a couple of other context pieces to this. This prompted a conversation around stereotypes embedded in the writing of monster romance, and Michael LeBourne put up this post on Bindery explaining this, and armed with the knowledge that Michael gave as well as a few other content creators who I will talk about in a little bit, I decided to buy and review an ebook, a monster romance ebook that popped up on my TikTok feed, which brings me to today's book, which is going to be Prince of Beasts by Leon Riley. I have a little budget to buy ebooks with, particularly I assume this is a not good book budget. I let myself buy one or two ebooks that I'm iffy about once a month, and something that has helped me set that piece of my budget is today's sponsor, which is Rocket Money. Rocket Money is the all-in-one personal finance app that helps you lower your bills, stick to a budget, and cancel unwanted subscriptions. I had signed up for Instacart a while ago, and I forgot that when we moved, I wasn't going to use Instacart anymore, so I still was paying for it, and I had no idea, and Rocket Money helped me cancel that subscription. And canceling that meant I had more money for my bad book budget. Rocket Money safely and securely identifies unwanted charges, and it will even cancel subscriptions for you from the app, so you don't have to make any pesky phone calls. We all know that nobody in our generation wants to make any phone calls, so just a few taps and I had canceled unwanted subscriptions. They lay out what you're subscribed to, how often you are paying for it, whether it's bi-monthly, every 6 months, so you know what you're spending your money on, and it helps you to create a budget that works for you. Rocket Money has helped its customers save up to $740 a year with over 500 million in canceled subscriptions. Save more, spend less by joining the over 5 million members using Rocket Money, and you can do that today by going to rocketmoney.com/readswithrachel or click the link below in my description to get started for free by downloading the app, and you can unlock more features with premium. That's rocketmoney.com/readswithrachel to get started today for free, and thank you to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. So Zoe Ashwood orc series was called the Black Bear Clan series, and it's about orc men who fall in love with human women. This is a very common monster romance setup. So she had put up this TikTok talking about how the next books that she was working on was going to feature a particular character whose name starts with N, and people couldn't help but notice that his name sounds an awful lot like a slur. So combine this with the fact that often orcs are written, whether on purpose or not, to emulate black men. People were understandably concerned and grossed out. One such creator was Michael LeBourne, who has talked about this issue before. I really want to draw attention to his Bindery post on this subject and encourage you to go read it and subscribe to his Bindery for free because he's quite brilliant. The post is linked below, but let me give you some highlights and explain how I use them, and I'm going to talk about some other content creators who helped me make a lens with which to view monster romance now. So Michael's post is called "Why Racist Monster Smut is Tolkien's Fault." Again, the link is below. I'm just going to read you some highlights. You know exactly why we're here. Another white woman has taken a stroll through the racist fantasy land of orc dick, and I want to talk about it. It's a great way to open. Nailed it. I spend a fair amount of time challenging readers to engage with literature more honestly and more ethically, and whenever I challenge the inherent racism that exists in most monster romance stories, I have commenters trying to explain to me how I am projecting my own imagined grievances onto literature that is wholly unproblematic. I have a sneaking suspicion that this is probably going to happen in my comments to a degree as well, and I want to encourage you to not do that, please. But the unfortunate truth is Tolkien perfectly set the stage for white women to project black men into their fantasies through the medium of orcs and other monsters, and I want to help you see how. Take a quick scroll through your history books and look at the way the oppressive regimes spoke about their victims prior to waging war against them. In every instance, you'll find that prior to outright genocide, the great evils of the world have put in the work to convince everyday citizens that their targets deserve to be violently oppressed. In recent years, there have been a lot of conversations about the part that white women play in the oppression of black people. Those conversations have been incredibly frequent and very nuanced, but what I want to talk about right now is the specific way that white women participate in the oppression of black men. This is important because one of the primary primary ways white women contribute to the oppression of Black men is by painting us as sexual deviants. They play a huge role in the sexualization of Black men, and in doing so, they accomplish two things. First, they use white men's hatred of us and infantilization of them to direct their violence. And two, they are able to reclaim some of the power that white men systemically steal from them by demonstrating their power over us. And yes, I mean in the bedroom too. Really think about it. One of the appeals of dark romance is that women get to step into sexual experiences where they are not stripped of their power and their humanity simply by virtue of consenting to it. I am not saying the only appeal, that this is the only appeal, only that it is one of the appeals. There is power in consent, and for a lot of white women, that same kind of power exists in sexually engaging with Black men. In the same way that orcs create a boogeyman that justify the hero's violence, sexy orcs create a monster that the damsel in distress doesn't actually have to be afraid of. Using this and a couple of other notes from other content creators, I went into my next monster smut armed with this knowledge, but it's not just Michael. This conversation has been ongoing a long time, but the Zoe Ashwood incident sort of brought it to the forefront again and made for really good conversation, in my opinion, and I hope that you will go look into all of these that I'm about to mention. Now, before I forget to mention this, because I didn't write it in my notes, Zoe Ashwood did receive all of this feedback. She put up an apology. She said she's not from the US, and she's like, in my native language, I didn't pick up on how close it was to the slur, and she said that she will be changing the character's name. Watching so many creators discuss the nuances here, explaining why the discussions and depictions in monster romance matter, and why just because there's like a level of unseriousness here, that doesn't mean that the depiction doesn't matter when the tropes and the characterization that we're using are perpetuating stereotypes. And stereotypes do affect the real world, even when they're in fiction, because we are not divorced from the fiction that we read. So Graciela from Grapey Del Taco on TikTok has a great video on this, which I have linked below, where she mentioned this.
I understand that there is like a level of unseriousness that you have to like sort of lean into to properly enjoy this stuff. But if I'm reading these silly works and I'm still finding racially charged language, anti-Semitic tropes, misogyny, ableism, xenophobia, I should still have room to talk about this and like have it be taken seriously. And when we're talking about the world of creature creation, we most definitely need to be looking at what these creatures are inspired by.
Again, that video is brilliant, so I really recommend watching this. Graciela also mentions two other creators talking about this whose videos I want to shout out here and encourage y'all to go watch. One by Ashanti Reads and one by Sanjana at Baskin Sons. The video by Ashanti Reads was this great catalyst for more stitched videos, including Sanjana's and Graciela's, and there were such great conversations in the comments as well. And these are dialogues that we can all really benefit from, because did you know that you don't have to read uncritically, and that it's not unfun, or that it's not like better to not take things seriously? Did you know that it's okay to read critically? I want to free you from the idea that it's not. Ashanti asked us to consider, when we're reading and writing and consuming monster romance, who the alien races who like come to steal the women are based off of.
When they invent these species of alien men who come and take human women, I would like us to all think about who and historically are they basing the things that they're saying about these alien groups off of? Who does that in our society is reminiscent of? And then what are they implying when they create tribes of men who steal and are accused of raping and killing human women to take what they want? And then those species are only being redeemed by these most oftentimes white women falling in love for them, and then explaining to the other humans that they aren't uncivilized, they aren't these horrible tribes, they actually are people with, not people, but aliens with unique culture and things, and we just have to take the time to get to know them. So who are you basing those things off of?
Ashanti ends with opening this up for conversation, asking what writers and readers can do so that these like underlying themes that are obviously racist, whether or not the author intended to be racist or not, aren't written into the genre so often. It doesn't actually have to be the standard of the genre. And I think that if you're a reader or a writer, you should again go check out these conversations and help you to write stories with more care. And for readers, again, read with a more critical eye. And so one of the responses response to Ashanti was Sanjana, and this was a great video where Sanjana brings up how she actually wrote a paper on the sexual politics of monster romance. She asks us to consider why monster romance as a genre gets a pass to write things a certain way, whether that be like using specific language or theme that we would not accept from other genres. And this likely goes back to something that Graciela said about there being a level of unseriousness in this genre, so you're supposed to, view it as it's not that deep, but it is because fiction doesn't live in a vacuum. Sanjana brings up, as does Graciela, Jeffrey Jerome Cohen's 7 Theses of Monster Theory, and she reads a piece from her paper where she cited this thesis.
I want to read a little section from Jeffrey Jerome Cohen. He wrote this piece called 7 Theses, which is like sort of the seminal text on monster theory, and I cited it in part of my paper. Among Cohen's theses is the note that monsters have historically represented or emerged in response to white people's cultural anxieties about unruly women and the threat of miscegenation. As Cohen notes, the narratives of the West perform the strangest dance around that fire in which miscegenation and its practitioners have been condemned to burn. And I was really struck by this line because he talks about this strange dance, and I think that captures really well this like simultaneous like fear and trepidation and this like intense desire that I think characterizes these like racial stereotypes appearing in erotic fiction. Like, what is it about this like taboo desire, this like pull that comes from feeling like, oh, the dynamics at play here are forbidden, and yet they like speak to me in some way. Not me personally, but me, reader, broadly. And I think it's something that like romance readers or monster romance readers probably still have to contend with, and certainly that monster romance writers have to contend with.
So themes that Michael and Graciela and Sanjana and Ashanti, everyone discussing this, call to our attention were a specific list of things that I noticed like overlapping in what they were talking about. So I wrote them down, and I'm going to go into the book and seeing if I see any of those things. Spoiler alert, I most definitely did. So these are things like white women being scandalized and saved by a horrifying creature who is often a foreigner and comes from a people group that is tribal, more primitive, and more violent. And these species are redeemed by these women, who are mostly white women, by falling in love with the white woman or having sex with the white woman. That's not like the end all be all. There's more, stereotypes than that, but those are the ones that I wrote down. I noticed a common theme when they were talking. So there might be some that I missed in Prince of Beasts. And also I want to impress upon you that I don't think that these things are being written all the time on purpose. Some people are probably just racist and doing it on purpose, like vitriolically racist. A lot of people have subconscious bias. I'm not immune to this, and this will leak into the things that you create. This will leak into how you perceive media, what you pass off as being fine, but then it also leaks into how you treat people and think of people in real life. Again, it does not exist in a vacuum. That doesn't exist. Now again, Sanjana mentions this in her video. What's being asked isn't to stop writing and reading this genre. What's being asked is to interrogate the why, Sanjana says, of why we're writing and reading these things, and think about whether or not our unconscious bias is causing us to perpetuate harmful ideas about real people, and for readers to not simply read uncritically, as if what you consume has no effect on you or how you think or treat others. So to demonstrate that this, conversation that many people were having and taking the time to educate everybody was helpful for me as a reader in knowing what to look for and suggest changes on how we could do better in monster romance books. I'm going to be reviewing Prince of Beasts and pointing out where these issues that, these creators brought to my attention came up. And the one thing I want to say before we enter the Prince of Beasts part of this video is them helping me read more critically is a good thing, but also it is a fun thing. I need many of y'all to hear this. Reading critically is fun. You don't need to turn your brain off to have fun. Those are not, in order to have fun, I must turn my brain off. That is just not true. Reading and examining texts and using them to broaden your understanding, to make comparisons, to have conversations about is fun. It's also kind of a skill that you hone. I'm not that good at it, but I'm trying, and learning this skill in and of itself has been fun. So please miss me with that I just read for fun, it's not that deep nonsense. In addition to playing into these exact stereotypes that I had pointed out to me, this also is just really poorly written. It begins with an introduction, which is basically the synopsis, which in a shorter book, I don't know why you possibly need that. There's no way she could fall for Jackal. Oh yeah. First thing we need to talk about is that this man's name is Jackal. 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 There's no way she could fall for Jackal, especially when his body is so strange and unlike hers, right? Content warnings, coerced marriage, dubcon, detailed sexual situations, unusual genitalia, breeding kink, pregnancy and birth. I wouldn't really call this breeding kink. I mean, yes, I would. Never mind. I forgot about that last scene. This got real scummy by the end. We are next on the Berbar's list to be invaded, conquered, and likely slaughtered. So many lands lie between my kingdom and theirs that we never worried about the Berbar, but in the high forested cliffs of my homeland Fior, they are like far-off dragons, not quite myth, but not quite real. For some reason, this woman, this queen, Dion, has paintings in her castle, and one of them is of the Berbar, and it just so happens that it ends up being the Berbar that she marries. Berbar, by the way, is spelled like this. I don't ask me. I don't know. I just work here. The Berbar painting stands alone in a hallway near their conservatory, depicting an enormous man with great horns. On my way to smell the roses my gardener has been carefully cultivating for me, I always stop to look at it. Throughout my years as queen, I've been curious about this creature. He only appears as a monstrous figure with a huge axe in his hand, the blade buried in the mud, as if he has given up his fight. It always feels like his deep-set eyes are boring into mine. The Berbar draws me in and holds me there, riveted to him until a sound or interruption tears me away. There is a great uproar among my advisors when the Berbar suddenly charge into the elves' neighboring woods. So the way that this was written, I thought that somehow she was visibly seeing this, because we just go straight from until a sound or interruption tears me away. There is a great uproar among my advisors when the Berbar suddenly charge into the elves' neighboring woods. So I'm like, so is the uproar from the advisors and you're hearing it and that's what drives your gaze away? Nope. I realize those two things are unrelated. Why? So such bad writing. It's not long before my scouts returned to tell us that the Berbar bludgeoned their way through the elves' ranks, bringing them to their knees. Once the Berbar have finished taking the elven lands, they turn their sights on us. This is all happening because this man on the cover wants to marry this woman on the cover. So he bludgeons his way through the elves to get to her, even though he could have just sent a letter. But he wouldn't do that because she's more civilized than he is, I guess. They raised their weapons to defend her people raised their weapons to defend their kingdom. We arrived to the battlefield, ready for whatever our enemies might have for us. I stand in the front with my sword at the ready. I will be the first to defend my people, and I will do it to the death. And the Berbar are like, go meet our king. He wants to meet with you alone. And her generals are like, what if your enemies choose to kill you on the spot? We cannot lose you. Even though she's voted into this position of queen and they literally could lose her. They would just pick another queen. So yeah, great. But it is me the Berbar wish to speak with, and it is me that they will get. The empty battlefield is deathly silent as the emissary and I approach one another and stop a few yards apart. I must admit, interested to hear what this messenger has to say. Our commander, Prince Jackal, Jesus, wishes to speak with you. And she's like, the prince's plan is maybe to kill me privately and then parade my head around the battlefield to intimidate my forces. And I'm like, yeah, that makes about as much sense as what we're already doing. Great. Please, the prince does not wish it to come to that. Not with you, my queen. So she goes to talk to the prince, Jackal. I'm not prepared for how tall he is. The prince has surprisingly long hair, most of it tied back in a high ponytail with a few long strands hanging in the front of his face. They are shiny, smooth, and black as the night sky. He wears a heavy metal chest plate with the crest of an ox carved into it and a chain mail coil across his groin. What? Groin. Jesus, Rachel. His legs are bare, or as bare as they can be, and covered in thick, dark fur. He has hooves, shiny and black like his hair. He has black hair, black hooves, black leg hair, and also his horns are described as black in the book. They're not black on the cover, but they are described as black in the book. Meanwhile, she's described as this extremely pale thing. From the middle hangs a gold ring from his nose. Yeah, from his broad nose hangs a gold ring. My queen, thank you for coming to meet me. I'm Prince Jackal. I have a proposal, one that could benefit both of our people and prevent much unnecessary bloodshed. No one asked you to come here, I growled. There was never any need for war in the first place if you had just stayed in your lands as we have. So this is our first hint that it is indeed one of those groups of people who are violent, and the white woman has to teach this violent monster man to be more human. The elves would not let us pass without a fight, so I did what I had to do in order to reach you, my queen. I came here for you, and they were merely in the way. For me? Why? He reaches into a cabinet and brings out a painting, a framed small painting painting. I don't know how small. We'll just call it one of these. It's me, I gasp, painted many years ago when I was still in my youth. He has a picture of her when she was in her youth, whatever the fuck that means. How does he have this? I wonder if my own painting is perhaps created in his likeness too. The resemblance is uncanny, but how could that have come to be? We don't know. We never find out. Great. I've had this for many years, he says. It hangs in my room where I can see it every night as I go to bed and every morning when I wake up. Oh no. So this is like that scene from that terrible movie based on that terrible book where that guy is like, you will be forced to marry me because I've had this picture of you and I'm obsessed with you, with that one Italian guy. My queen, I'm nearly at the end of my marrying years, but I have not been able to choose a wife. My advisor have brought many beautiful women before me, but none of them bring out my passion. It's like that scene from The Emperor's New Groove. Now, we've switched movies.
Yikes, 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 and let me guess, you have a great personality.
I'm not sure what any of this has to do with me. It took me many years to realize that it was this. You are burned into my mind. I cannot escape it. I need you. Please, your majesty, be my wife. Join me in matrimony. Share my life with me, and your people will never fear or want for anything again. You are both beautiful and magnanimous. Stories of your heroism, your passion for justice, and your dedication to your people have reached my ears many times. Okay. So stories about her have reached your ears, but you couldn't think to send a letter being like, I would like to propose matrimony. You fought your way there. I'm very curious as to why the author made that choice specifically to have him do that. We could unite the world and then rule over it together. Oh, well, there it is. Also wondering why the author made that choice. He wants to marry me. That would mean not only joining our royal households, but living alongside one another. He would most certainly want heirs, and that presents a whole host of other questions I can't answer. My gaze falls to the coil at his waist, and unbidden, I imagine what he looks like underneath there. Wow, we're already thinking about great. I hear a chuckle and realize I've been caught. I have been given the gift. I would be able to keep you quite happy, I believe, my queen. I have finished this book and I don't know what this means. Does that mean it's big? I'm genuinely asking. What is the gift? I'm not interested in marrying and most certainly not a Berbar. Wait, is Berbar supposed to sound like barbarian? I really hope not. I really hope that was an accident. Even if it wasn't, again, this speaks to like an unconscious thing, kind of like, this, where it's like, did you not know, or did you maybe just kind of accidentally do that and realize you'd done it later? You had not planned to continue the royal line to produce heirs who could rule after you? I was not born into the position of queen. It was given to me by my people, the same as all the previous kings and queens of Fior. I was nominated once my predecessor passed away, and it was my advisors who chose me and swore me in. I'm sorry that I must refuse you. Please reconsider. I do not want to go to war with you. Those are your conditions then? Marry you or else die? This is the agreement he's presenting to me. Surrender my entire kingdom to him or put our lives on line to fight him off. I would never hurt a single hair on you. But my people, my kingdom are fair game. I just want unity in our world and I want you at my side when I achieve it. I don't care what you want. What do you want? Safety. I want my people to be happy. I didn't ask what you wanted for your people. I asked what you, the queen, want for yourself. He kneels in front of her. She can see his tail flicking behind him. He kisses her on the hand and says, if you take my hand in marriage, I will give you everything your heart desires. Whether it is material objects or pleasures of the flesh, I would be honored to give them to you. Pleasures of the flesh. So he does have, no, I shake my head. I can't think about this. A human and a Berbar married, enjoying, as he puts it, the pleasures of the flesh. It is impossible. Is it? Why? Can you elaborate? I hate that it must come to this, he says, standing before you with my assembled forces. Rather than on one knee, my intelligence had warned me you would not be open to my offer. So you came to blackmail me with the safety of my subjects instead. He did it all so that I would have no choice but to accept this offer. Much to my despair, he's right. If it means the safety of my kingdom, what is a marriage? Of course I must say yes if threatened with the pain and death of my people. I'm sorry, he says. This was the only way. So driven by your petty desires that you would put the lives of all your people and mine on the line. Please, my queen, you must understand that it is greater than just, save it, I'll marry you, but I will never ever forget that you compelled me. She will. She will forget. She will forget. She will forgive. She will be fine with it in a few pages. You will never derive the pleasure you had hoped for from me. You will regret this. Man, I wish that that's what actually happened. So let's go over what happened here. I feel like this is a really good example of how Michael was talking talking about one of the appeals of dark romance is that women get to step into sexual experience where they are not stripped of their power and their humanity simply by virtue of consenting to it. For a lot of white women, the same kind of power exists in sexually engaging with black men. The same way that orcs create a boogeyman, sexy orcs create a monster that the damsel in distress doesn't actually have to be afraid of. And we set this up by saying here, he would never hurt her, but he's a big scary man. He's so scary, and that's the appeal. That's the sexy part of him, but he would never hurt her, and she still has power. So I feel like in this way, this book is playing into one of these common monster romance stereotypes. She tells her advisors, okay, I've negotiated a peace treaty with my hand in marriage, and they're like, oh, you're going to marry a creature? She's like, yes, and we're going to convince all the people that I'm excited for this event. No one will be the wiser that this was against my will. She asks Jackal, where are we going to rule from? As much as I would like to take you home with me, I sense that you would be much happier here in your own kingdom. We discuss the political merging of our kingdoms over dinner one night as the wedding draws nearer. While Prince Jackal has maintained a powerful armed force, we never required a standing army. Now, I would have thought that all of their questions would have been asked and answered in this scene, but unfortunately we have questions later on that are brought up and she doesn't know the answer, and then she just sort of has to like dump an idea on us at the end, which is, you know, she was elected, but he is not elected. He is, you know, passed down the crowd. But also, I thought that this was going to be the part where they explain why he is a prince and not the king of his own kingdom, and then we never do that. I don't know why he's not a king. There doesn't seem to be another king. Where is the king? Why is he no king? Why should I know these things? Do you know them? Instead, they just talk about the fact that he's like, well, you can use my military. And she says, well, we don't need a military. He's like, no, we're gonna move in on Trollkin. We're gonna take over the Trollkin people. And she says, no, we're not. The plan is to unite the world, the entire world, for all of our peace, our prosperity. So he's the colonizer. Okay, that seems like a choice. You already created chaos in the Elves Woods. You already stole so many fathers and mothers away from their children. But it was necessary. You will leave the Trollkin to themselves. But it is part of our empire, my queen, the one we will build together and rule together. And it will be a better world. You would sit from on high, gaze down upon strangers, and tell them your way of life is better than theirs, as if you are someone so superior who knows that what peace is while you raze the southern woods to the ground. Something about this is giving me the ick. She's like, as your queen, I insist. And again, I don't know why he's not the king of, you know, whatever system they have set up. I don't know why he's not king yet of the Berbar. And he's like, but this is what has propelled, you know, me to go on. My father wanted this. All he ever wanted was to quell the Trollkin's pillaging and bring our world under a single flag. She's like, but what do you want for yourself? So they decide that they're not going to move in on the Trollkin. And it says, perhaps we aren't married yet, but the prince already acts like we are. Why? Because you had to explain to him why he couldn't imperialize, and he agreed. I can't say that as a married person that's ever a conversation I've ever had with my husband, but I don't know, maybe I'm built different. But I wonder how long it will be before my obstinance gets under his skin. Then suddenly it's the day of their wedding. His chest is completely bare, and I'm surprised by how well muscled he is, shining as if he's been buffed. He is naked down to the waist, where the sweeping line of his groin muscle vanishes under a gold wrap that matches his sash. Braided ropes dangle down, and there are bronze metal rings all over his legs, from his high ankle joint down to his hooves. His legs are certainly strange, but becoming more familiar to me by the day. Even his hooves have been shined. So they get married, and it says, it's time to consummate the marriage. And I was real confused. But it says, I swallow hard as I gaze upon his face, the one I must kiss in front of everyone. And I'm like, doesn't consummate a marriage very specifically mean sex? Or am I wrong about that? You can tell me. You guys often do tell me when I'm wrong about words. And she's thinking about what his lips will feel on hers. It feels like he's trying to tell me something with those eyes, but I don't know how to hear his voice in them yet. Wow, beautiful writing, just magical. I had intended this to be a peck, but now his tongue is tracing my mouth, and I find that without my permission, it has opened for him. He presses in further, and I feel his arms tighten around my waist as his tongue invades me. I'm swept away by it. I've not been kissed in many, many years. I have no resistance built up to the way he is wrapping his lips around mine while he pulls my body closer. A sharp spark flies down my throat, into my chest, and then spiders out across my belly. Is spider a noun or a verb? Or both? Can you spider? This is spider. This is the second time I've come across it, and I feel like it just doesn't sound right. Spiders out across my belly to all the places where his bare skin touches my dress. Now we are married, and dread is building in my belly for what comes next. I have a husband as of this day, and he is a monster. So after their wedding and wedding feast, they go back to her room, and he's like, I'm not going to ask you to do anything you're not comfortable with. And she's like, I wonder if it's too late to ask him not to marry me at all. Yes, I would say so. You were in fact coerced into this. I will need help freeing my hair from its bonds, so He helps her take her hair down. It's supposed to be like, see, he's such a cinnamon roll, but also he coerced her into this. So no, he's not. He said that he won't ask me to do anything I don't want, but how long will that last? Perhaps all of his kindnesses are ticking clocks. King Jackal will certainly want heirs, as his royal line is determined by blood and not nomination. What does that mean for me someday? Basically wondering, is he going to rape me? Woof. When I return, Jackal sits on the bed with one leg held out as he removes each bronze ring from his ankles. He turns to face me and his mouth falls open. Her, like, I don't want to get demonetized. Her sort of rhymes with pimples are visible through her nightie, and so is the mound of hair between her, walking contraptions. YouTube will demonetize me for anything these days. I could sleep on the floor if that would be easier for you. What? A king sleep on the floor? He's only being considerate, I know, but that's ridiculous. You were just concerned he was going to rape you, so. Okay. When I wake up, I find myself curled up against someone quite warm and soft and sturdy. Of course, they're snuggling. When the covers fall down, she sees, I don't know what I expected, a big furry penis, I suppose, but instead there's just a large lump between his legs with a splash of white fur at the front. When he notices me looking at him, the fur parts to either side and the tip of what looks like a cock starts to emerge. It's the same color as the rest of his skin, a bright tan with a soft pink head. So that's how it works. It's hidden under there unless summoned. So the way that this is described can only show up in my mind as one of these extremely dangerous caterpillars, because one of these was once in my sibling's car and I told them, hey, there's something absolutely outrageous in your back seat next to your partner. And so they turn around, they're like, what the fuck is that? Its little head was sticking out of this little white furry body. And I'm sorry, but the way she just described that is this caterpillar right here.
This is Florida's puss caterpillar. It is one of the most venomous insects.
Okay, this caterpillar is one of the most dangerous in North America, and that's how this monster's penis is described. Like, sure, I did see when I bought the book that it said that one of the things in this book was, and I quote, weird peen. I just didn't think that we meant this fuzzy, very poisonous North American caterpillar. I didn't think that that's the direction we were going. Damn, I'm sorry. I didn't want that to happen. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It's all right, we're married. It's okay to look. You're not ready yet. I'll be here when you are. Then she says something to him that sounds it sounds like she's trying to call him uncivilized. How did you learn all of our customs? He acts like a natural in the royal palace. You have such good manners. And instead of him saying, hi, I'm a person, that's kind of weird and fucked up for you to say as if I'm primitive and you're not, he says, I studied your ways for a long time. I wanted to know how to live alongside you. Oh, so in order for him to be not unmannered, he had to study her, the mannered one. Got it. That's so great. So one of her advisors is like, do you think you can be happy with your new king? Sure, why not? Do you think you can ever love him? Now the questions are feeling too personal. So the asking if you could be happy with him is too personal. Okay. I'll never love a monster. I just shake my head in silence.
Hello. Hi, I was filming this and I got exhausted very suddenly, and so I took a shower, and by the time I got out of the shower, it was clear to me how sick I was suddenly getting. So I'm gonna have to film like this because I don't have the energy. Is that a cough drop stuck to my sweater? It is. That is a cough drop stuck to my sweater. This is going great. This is the quality content that you guys are here for. I'm really glad that I got as much done as I did of this yesterday, but I wish that I could have filmed all of it so that you wouldn't have to see this. But here we are. Isn't this great? Aren't you glad you're here? Shit. We're gonna do our best. So welcome to the rest of the video wherein I sound like Tara Reid from the 2000s. So getting back into the book, Deanne's advisor, particularly one named Arnwell, says we should consider integrating these beasts into our society. Integrating them, but many don't even speak our language. We don't know if they can be trusted, she says about the people that she now rules. So she frustratingly agrees and says, fine, they can build settlements near human settlements, but not too close. Don't take away anything that belongs to one of our people. Some of his people decide to stay and build settlements in her kingdom, and then some of them decide to return home. And then she tells him that she wants him to start coming to the office with her. the office, so that he can start learning more about the kingdom that she rules, and that he can teach her about his kingdom, even though she just literally said like 2 pages before that she doesn't want his people settling near her people. But okay. I should know as much as I can about your country if I'm going to be any help to you. Of help to me? He seems perplexed. And you want to know more about my homeland? Well, yeah, she's the queen, dum-dum. She kind of rules it. Like, this isn't a romantic thing where it's like, wow, she's starting to care about me. You are a ruler. You should know that she would also... Like, this is just written so silly. It's making it out like he's taking it as, wow, she cares about me. Obviously, he is a ruler himself. He should know that she would need to know about his kingdom. This is just stupid. It's setting us up so that he can be disappointed when he realizes that it's a political thing and not her being interested in his people because she's interested in him. So they talk about the differences between their people. Her people like to build up high on cliffs and his people like to build underground. And this conversation just, again, like takes the opportunity to sort of make her people seem more civilized than his. Then they have a moment where they're like gazing into each other's eyes. I hope that I can truly earn your affection someday, he says, still using that deep, quiet voice, his fingers entwined with mine. I will do whatever it takes to make you feel happy and comfortable with me. But can I promise the same? My instinct is to harden myself to him, to wall my heart off. Yeah, he forced you into a marriage, so no shit. Maybe if I tried to make this work, it wouldn't be as intolerable. So she says that she'll try, and he says, you will not regret giving me a chance. No, but I sure regret buying this. I mean, it was good as an exercise to like see that a monster romance, one that just like comes up in my feed, is yes, fitting into those exact stereotypes and story beats that have like racist undertones that all of these other content creators were pointing out. So like they were proved right, but at what cost? It was like $3.99. Honestly, the cost was like $3.99, but also a cost of my brain cells. Oh God, here it goes. Already the feel of his words against my neck has sent a signal straight down into the cavity between my legs. The cavity? That feels like a personal attack. How dare you use that? Gently, his lips pressed to my neck just underneath my ear. I can't help the little gasp that escapes me, followed by another when he moves his mouth further down. He doesn't try to pull me closer or block off my escape. I could draw myself away from him at any time and we would no longer be touching, but I don't. So this was the first hint to me that Michael was right, that when Michael said that often it sounds like in monster romance that we are safely exploring a white woman being sexual with a man who's perceived to be a sexual deviant, particularly a man of color, and her pointing out like, oh, he could hurt me, he could rape me, but he won't, I could get away, giving her that power back. I do think that this is starting to play into those stereotypes, and this is, while reading it, I was like, oh, this is starting to do those things that Michael pointed out that these stories often do. So they start kissing. She starts thinking of the caterpillar situation, we'll call it, so that I don't get demonetized by YouTube. It is much too soon to be thinking these sorts of thoughts. Surely far too premature to be imagining what he looks like when he emerges all the way out of that fur pouch. They end up leaving. It doesn't go any further than that. And walking around her castle, they start to talk about how he likes how she smells, which is great. You smell like spring, like a daisy taking its first breath. Like a daisy taking its first breath. But you also have a sweeter scent when you sleep. That's when I'm reminded of home, of playing in meadows as a boy and swimming in clear lakes. You take me back to that place. So they're walking around her conservatory, and then they go into the place where she has those paintings, and specifically that one painting of a burbar. Where did you get this? He asks. It's always been here, I say, since I was inaugurated. It's the only depiction of the burbar in the whole castle. It's much too strange that I would have you and you would have me. Is it? Is it much too strange? Is it too strange to explain how the fuck this happened? Because I would like an explanation. Is it really you? Down to the scar on my forehead. I hadn't noticed a scar, I say. He tilts his head down and arches an eyebrow, observing the vast difference in our heights. How would you? What do you mean, how would you? You guys were kissing 10 seconds ago. When you kiss, I don't know if you know this, but your mouths are next to each other, which means that just above your mouth are your eyes, which can also observe just above that, the forehead. She was next to your face. How she didn't notice that you had a scar is quite literally impossible unless you are consistently wearing a hat or have like a really severe bowl cut. So which is it? Isn't it strange? I had no idea that you knew me already. I don't like the hint of knowing in his eyes, as if he sees something that's invisible to me. I don't like her painting him like he's being sneaky only for this to like not pan out for anything. Like, I don't understand how they had pictures of each other, and I don't understand the purpose of it. It serves the story in no way. Perhaps the same traveling artist passed through both of our kingdoms. What kind of traveling artist would have possibly been able to do that? You guys, his people in particular, hate the Trollkin. They killed the elves, and the humans are afraid of them. So how would a traveling artist, what is artist also a race of people that is like neutral? Are artists Switzerland? What the fuck are you talking about? How would a traveling artist have, what does that mean? The following day, I decide to invite him into my office and start showing him what I do. We'll be leaving for our honeymoon tomorrow, and I have a lot to take care of before I'm gone for 2 weeks. It pains me to leave the kingdom right now when they need me most, but this is expected of us. It is all part of the illusion of happiness I've sold to my people. This is when I really know that the writer was just like, I'm horny and plot free. And you know what? I just feel like there's a point where it's too lazy. There's no reason to write things like this. That doesn't make any fucking sense. That doesn't make any fucking sense. If your people need you the most, but you're also doing this for the people, why are you prioritizing this facade of happiness when your people also need you? What do your people need you for? And why is it that it is more important for them to have this facade that you are happily on your honeymoon? For why? For what reason? For what purpose? What happens if you don't do that? These are things you have to answer in the text. So after they spend this day together working, which we just breeze right past and get no answers about the kingdom, obviously, they start kissing again. The small animal inside me has grown large. With great claws, it is banging down the door. I am hot all over now, and his tongue inside my mouth makes me think of certain other objects that fit into each other this way. Was this written by a 12-year-old? Good God. This is giving like a 12-year-old finds AO3 and goes down a rabbit hole and starts writing smut fic. I'm definitely not talking about myself, and is writing like really cringy stuff because they don't understand the technicalities of sex, obviously, and don't know how to write it, but they're just sitting there typing away. That's what that sounds like. That is so silly. Makes me think of certain other objects that fit into each other this way. Stop it. We are adults. No, there's no chance that I'm thinking of him like that. The Berber that came to me, threatening my kingdom if I didn't give him my hand. I can't possibly be imagining that lump of fur and how it opened when he became aroused by me. So that paragraph right there, that's right next to it. That's all one paragraph, right? There's no way. So I feel like we are particularly sexualizing the idea of him coming in and threatening her kingdom unless she married him. Like, that's part of the sexual appeal. And then I think that the author doesn't really want to admit this. So then later she makes him apologize for doing this, but it's too late. You've already written this like, oh no, he came into my kingdom and threatened me. And also, how can I possibly be so horny? You're horny because of that. That's what's coming through here for me, which is weird. Underneath me, something firm presses against my thighs. Tell me when to stop, he says. I will. He doesn't know what a bra is, so he says, what is this? I guess Berber women don't wear bras, but Berber women, by the way, literally never come on page in this book. Not even once. Which I think is a choice. So he's going to her chest area. He pauses almost bashfully. He kisses circles around each of my small breasts, never once touching the nipples. Now suddenly I don't want anything else besides his lips on them. Tell me what you would like. And she says, suck on me. No. Yes, my queen. So then he's starting to go south, and she starts to touch his horns that he has. You can see them. He remains still while I test them, bringing my fingers from the base up to the devilish tips. They're ridged like a ram's horns and shiny black. Shiny black? That's shiny black? That's the color. That's barely darker than my coffee. That's not shiny black. That is brown. And it's not even as brown as his hair, which, by the way, is also described as black in the book. The ends that I thought were sharp are actually rounded. He couldn't hurt much of anything with them. His hands drop to the buttons of my pants, where he waits just before undoing the top button, as if giving me a chance to stop him, really reiterating the, see, he's a good guy. He's giving her chances. She could walk away from this. I'm afraid of what he'll see there. What if he doesn't like what he finds? We are so very different after all. I doubt I look like a Burbar woman between the legs. His hand is warm against me, and I realize with a start that I've gotten quite moist and swollen down there. Absolutely not. That alone is a crime. Moist and swollen? Are you joking right now? Boo! 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 She says in a broken voice, boo! So then he heads down south, and let's see, what euphemism do we want to use today? I used fiddling with the clam the other day, and I feel like I should go to prison for that. Everything I think is worse than the last thing. He smooches the bean. No, that's when I feel it. The top of the mountain. He's pushed me there. Now I'm teetering at the cliff. And she arrives. Great. They're not really sure what to do after. And he's like, I could remove my thing he wears down below, which is called a coil. I don't know what that is. And I'm not going to Google because I don't care. And she's like, okay, sure, remove it. And she's thinking to herself, I have to see it. I have to know. Sure enough, the white fur has parted to the sides and a surprisingly large has emerged from between. The head is less defined from the shaft than I expected, and the point is more pronounced. The long, rigid shape of it is like nothing I've ever seen before. Oh, I've seen it. I have seen it. It's that freaking caterpillar. I've seen it with my own eyes. The moment that my mind imagines it inside me, it shuts down. I curl my hands up and draw them away, suddenly afraid that what I'm looking at is foreign, alien. How could I be so close to it and consider parting my legs for it when it comes out of a bundle of fur like that? It's creamy at the tip, and I hold in a little gasp of alarm. This is so horrible. This is just so horrible. She's like, this is so over the top and ridiculous. She's like disgusted by him. You've seen it before. You wanted to see it again. What is wrong with you? Stop it. And he's like, oh, okay, it's all right. That's enough for now. I realize then that I'm panting with fright. I let this go too far tonight. It was so big that it was almost frightening. What would I do with that? Oh my God. This is just, see, I feel like this is playing into stereotypes around non-white men. I really do. I feel deeply guilty too. That is what he is down there after all. I knew that when we began. You kind of should feel guilty. You just like body shamed him for no reason. I'm afraid, she says. Your people do not look like me. No, they don't. This will take time, Jackal says. I cannot believe that his name is Jackal. So then they fall asleep. Sorry. It is finally time for our honeymoon, and I am a bud of oh my God. I am a flowering bud of trepidation. Ma'am, you could not write a well-done description if it punched you in the face and then handed you itself on a silver platter. They're gonna go on a honeymoon of traveling so that he can learn about the land. It says in passing that they reminisce about their childhoods. They don't have parents anymore. They talk about this. That night, I don't even, Jesus, bother putting on my clothes because Jackal is eager to lick me all over again. Fantastic. Oh, we get to my favorite part. How exciting for us. Oh, I'm so glad you're here for this. They're visiting places. They have trains, by the way. Yeah, this that you thought was a fantasy book also has trains. But wait, it doesn't end there. The madness continues. The Zeppelin, capital Z, is our latest advancement, easily carrying 100 people across great distances. His eyes grow wide when I describe how they travel through the air. How is this possible to fly like a bird? Zeppelin? A Zeppelin, capital Z? Listen, my education was so bad. It was so incredibly bad. But even I know that the Zeppelin was named after a guy whose name was Zeppelin, capital D. What? Z. So if you are going to write an airship, don't call it a Zeppelin. That's a fucking anachronism. If you want to write an airship, just call it an airship. What are we doing here? Man, the higher my voice goes, the more I'm sounding like Mickey Mouse. Zeppelin? Are you joking? But what's funny is that she drops the capital Z after this and doesn't do that anymore. But it's still there. It's still Zeppelin. And the Zeppelin, whether you capitalize or not, is still named after Zeppelin. This is like if you write an SUV into your book and you just call it a Jeep. It's a brand name. It's an anachronism. Don't do that. And you know, it's not just like monster smut people getting away with it, because Quicksilver by Callie Hart also contained the words Cliff Notes. I'll give you the Cliff Notes. Oh, did that guy exist in this fantasy world you built too? This is Portal Fantasy. Did he portal in? The Cliff Notes guy portaled into your fantasy world and wrote Cliff Notes books there too? Okay, Sure, great. No, fantastic. Just Google things. Wow, that was a whole rant. Every night, Jackal pleasures me from head to toe, relishing my body, worshiping my rhymes with bit, and finding all sorts of ways to give my warm slit the fullness it's always craving, all without ever expressing a need of his own. Warm slit? It's like you're trying to kill me. I find myself wanting, hungering, perhaps I'm ready for something more. My gut response to the pouch between Jackal's legs has faded the more often I've seen him. He's always hard after he licks me. The pink tip of, oh my god, I just can't stop picturing the fucking caterpillar. The pink tip of him emerging and growing longer and thicker as we go until he's made me all over his face. So she says, can I look at it? He says, yes, of course, whatever you like. I want to pay him back for all the attention he's given me on this trip. He has cared for nothing but my pleasure, and at this moment, I want to make him feel the same way. When did this beast's happiness become so important to me? Oh my god. I'm losing it. Can I use my mouth? She says. Please do, he says. So I take him between my lips. The taste is earthy. There's the words droplet of cream is used. I can't. It's nasty. I can't. I'm just imagining the caterpillar and I cannot. I hate bugs. I hate them so much. I'm gentle with the pouch. Oh my god. He's filling my mouth with his salty seed. It's far more than I was prepared for, and I swallow as much as I can before I start to cough and gag. I wasn't expecting that much. I wasn't either. You bring it out of me, I suppose. Ah, that's nice. Do you feel more comfortable with it now? It does seem like I've taken an important step forward today, but I still feel an uneasiness when I imagine that big, pointed, wet object entering me between the legs. So then another Burbar shows up very suddenly on a horse, not in a Zeppelin capital Z, surely not, because only the, white people who are humans and not animal people who are obviously browner, only they have the Zeppelins capital Z. The Burbar have horses. The Burbar comes to him and says, hey, there's an emergency. You need to come home. And just like that, the honeymoon's over. We travel back as fast as we can to the castle. There's been a natural catastrophe, a landslide, mentions Zeppelin, not capital Z. And then they decide to separate. She's going to go back to her kingdom and he is going to go back to his so that he can deal with the landslide incident. And she's sad about this. And it says, when have I grown so attached to this Burbar who arrived at my doorstep as a conqueror? Well, because he became nicer and more humanized after you guys started to which is kind of a thing that, was pointed out to me by all those content creators who talked about this. Imagining him gone with no return date sends a cold shiver down my back. Oh, love, are you going to miss me? He says. I'll be home soon. So while he's gone, her advisors are like, so should we expect a prince or princess? I truly don't know, I say. I'm not even sure if it's possible. It seems like such a bizarre hypothetical that my mind can't even conceive of it. You've literally thought about it before. What are you talking about? Your mind can't conceive of it. You've thought about it before. I was there. I read it. So her advisor's like, I'm just wondering if the kingdom needs to be prepared for a change because his kingdom, they give their sons the kingdom, but here we vote. So we may have to implement a different policy. I don't know how I feel about that. It's been a custom here for hundreds of years, and it's served us well, but it's true that the Burbar come by their leaders differently, and I have no idea what would happen if one of us passed away. You guys never talked about this. You guys have fooled around so many times. You guys have talked about your kingdoms, but you never talked about this pretty important thing. For the rest of the time that Jackal is gone, the question remains in my mind. What comes next for us? He comes to visit, but he has to go back. And she's like, why does this bring me so much sadness? She notices that he's acting weird, and he says, I forced you into this. I made you marry me, Diane, on the threat that I would conquer your people, and for that, I'm so sorry. It was terrible of me to leverage your good nature against you. I trapped you here and thought that would be enough, that you would come to love me in spite of it. On the surface, he is right. We are only here because he held the safety of my people over my head. But I have come to care about him anyway. I can't deny that. Oh my goodness. Oh no. I'm letting you go, Diane. I want to undo what I should have done and not have done in the first place. I release you from our agreement. It washes over me like cold water, and an answer won't come to me. He's willing to annul our marriage now after all we've been through? So this is why he's been so cold and closed off. He's planning to leave me. It haunts me, Diane, that I gave you no choice. I will wonder until my dying day if you truly care for me, or if you have simply decided you must in order to get by. So it's like all these content creators said, the white woman redeems this brutal, man who's animalistic through sex. I could rewind time to the day the Berber appeared and turn my kingdom upside down. But did they really? Our people have already learned to live alongside one another. Ugh. It would be impossible to change what has been done. And Jackal says, no, I would withdraw my people and return to our lands should you wish to have your freedom back. Honestly, like, even this feels like a manipulation, because now she's in an impossible situation where she could technically choose to leave, but if he gets like the satisfaction of being able to say, see, she chose me, even when I said I would give her an opportunity to leave. It's like this fake situation where we're giving her consent back, or giving her agency back, and giving her an opportunity to consent now. But that's not true. You can't just retcon that. But yet it says leaving him would not be freedom. Okay, sure. Yes, this marriage began that way. But when you left and then came back to me, it felt like I had lost a part of me. Or I had found a part of me I had lost. You give me the chance to walk away if I want. But what if I choose to stay instead? Despite what I've done, it was misguided. Now I can't even sleep properly when you're not here in this bed with me. Oh my God. And then they're gonna have sex. When I have him fully naked in front of me, I find the fur bulge doesn't frighten me at all this time. No, in fact, I want to see it come out. This is where the book truly gets just absolutely bonkers. DN, I'm not sure if I can handle a tease tonight. Not like I usually can. I'm not sure if I can handle a tease tonight, he says. The words are spoken so softly but feel so harsh that I withdraw right away. Was I planning to tease him? I don't know. I have no clue what drove me to want to bring it out, and now I feel awful. I thought he would let me experiment on him forever, I suppose, but everyone has their limits. Then he says, I'm sorry. Then she says, no, I'm sorry for taking so long and for being so uncertain. Both of you are horrible. Both of you are horrible. I can't help that I still feel hot between the legs, still moist for him. Ugh. So then they decide to just fall asleep because of that awkward moment, but she still rhymes with corny, and so she decides to, I'm going to use it again, fiddle with the clam. Have I left you unsatisfied? No, I can't keep using him, expecting him to cater to my needs without any regard for his own. He says, I'm sorry if I hurt you. Don't be. You simply told me your boundaries and I need to respect them. That wasn't setting boundaries. That was a guilt trip. I'm not sure if I can handle a tease tonight is a guilt trip. Him saying, I'm uncomfortable is different than him saying, I'm not sure if I can handle a tease tonight. So, do you know how much I want you? He asks. It consumes me thinking about you, thinking about how it would feel to be inside you. I haven't been able to put my mind to anything else. If you touched me even for a moment, it would be impossible not to, ... Impossible not to what? Impossible not to what? Go on. Finish the sentence. Now I understand. He wants the next level and anything else would be a taunt. Gross. Gross. No, absolutely not. Inappropriate. So then she's like, could we try? You know, if you're certain that I would be happy, more than happy to oblige. Well, yeah, you just guilt tripped her into this. So I'm surprised at how easily it slips in as if it were meant to be. Kill me. I gasp as he comes up against my tight inner layer and it stops him from progressing further. Y'all are going to have to explain to me what the tight inner layer is because this woman is not a virgin. So she's not talking about like any sort of hymen type thing, right? So what tight inner layer are we talking about? Are we just hitting the cervix or what are we doing here? Now I can easily imagine how it would be to have him all the way up inside me, filling me up to the brim. Eagerly, I tilt my hips so he has better access and he dips in even further, slippery with my juices. I demand that y'all stop using the word juices. Demand! How dare you! I never in my life have I yelled at a girl like this. Stop saying juices in sex scenes. It's horrible. It's rude. It hurts my feelings. This coffee is not strong enough for this. Ugh, the fur at the base of him tickles my sensitive button. Why? I wonder what will happen if he unleashes all that Berber seed inside of me. Oh, wow. We're feeling super fetishistic right now. Just absolute fetishization. Just in a huge neon bright glowing sign. Hate it. Thank you. And of course, during P&V sex only, because certainly other kinds of sex are just not good enough, they decide to profess their love for each other. Jackal, I love you, not because I have to, but because I choose to. My queen, my love, I will always be at your side. This is so cheesy. He, finishes his doesn't retract back inside as I expected, but lies against his thigh, dripping with both of our fluids. I hate it. Why? And she wonders What will his generous amount of seed do in there? Oh yeah, did you think that this wasn't going to end up with the pregnancy trope? Well, you were wrong. You were wrong. My lover may be a beast, but he's my beast. Blech. So he returns to the Berbar lands to help oversee the rebuilding after the landslide. It feels like a great step forward in our journey, our marriage, and I agree. He will be gone for many months, perhaps even a year, and my heart sinks every time I think of it. But I plan to join him once the discomfort of being apart grows too great, which happens sooner rather than later because she's pregnant. So she goes to visit him, and she's like, hey, when you visited and all those times you came inside me, wow, did we have to say it like that? Jesus, imagine if that's how I told Carlos that I was pregnant the first time. I was cute. I gave him a little Batman onesie and a pregnancy test. It was Christmas Day, and I put it inside of a bag. I took that pregnancy test that morning. I handed it over to him. It was cute. Imagine if I had walked in to the fucking living room in the morning, been like, remember all those times you came inside me? Okay, daddy. Like, why are we just so gross about everything? So they go to a memorial for all the people who died in the landslide. There's one every single night. I don't know why. And it's not even a paragraph break before they're fucking. I'm serious. There's a somber air about us. He is quiet as he takes me that night. Why didn't we paragraph break? That's help me. There's a somber air about us. He is quiet as he takes me that night, nuzzling his face in my throat. The feeling of him is beyond what I'd ever dreamed possible. My king is gentle with my tender breasts and rough with his tongue until I'm thrashing and gasping. His tail caresses me. Okay, Carden. And his furry haunches butt up against my thighs as he thrusts into me from behind. I missed you more than a plant without sunshine, he says. I may not have pretty words like you do, but I missed you too, Jackal. Those are pretty words? Ma'am. Oh man, the bar is low. He's like, I want to be close now more than ever. And she thinks, but my kingdom needs me. And then literally 3 sentences later talks herself out of staying in her own kingdom and goes to stay in his. They decide in a very short conversation to just raise a child who will be somebody that the people will want to vote into office. And then paragraph break, they're fucking again. Though I am more tender than ever, Jackal treats me with the greatest gentleness when he makes love to me. Except no, he doesn't, because this scene is so gross. Our people say it is good for the baby, he tells me. Are you just making that up so you have an excuse to keep betting me? Not at all. She actively goes into labor while they are fucking. And he, instead of saying, do you want me to stop, says, shh, it will help. I promise. I am ripe with fear when the midwife arrives. And then the baby comes out. It's a girl. We made this. Can we make more? I chuckle and it makes me ache between the legs just to laugh. Yeah, well, it's probably split the fuck open down there. So no shit. You can't even pee correctly after giving birth. So come on now. They named their daughter Serena, and it says that they travel back and forth between their kingdoms even while she's pregnant with their second. Our people are happy and cared for, and that is all I could ever want. The end. I will never be able to not read monster romance through this lens again, but I think it's really interesting that the very first one that came up in my feed that I was like, okay, this is an opportunity. I'll purchase this. Because the author has several videos that have gone really viral with books that she's written. This one, but a couple other ones have gone really viral. And the comments are all like, is this what BOOKTOK is reading? And I'm like, yes, but it's for an experiment. So that coming up in my feed was really timely. And I'm like, oh, why the fuck not? So being able to do this experiment was so fascinating, seeing how this plays into all of those story beats with underlying racist ideas in them. And I don't think that the author did it on purpose, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't done. That doesn't mean that isn't something that we should have a conversation about so that we can endeavor to do better in the future and not just read uncritically and not think about how our perceptions of others cause us to treat them a certain way and then pass that idea on to our kids, who then treat their peers like that. For us white people, it's really not that difficult to just be like, oh, I have an unconscious bias and I think these stereotypes that are not true about people, but I've been taught that they're true, they're embedded in the art that we consume, and maybe I need to take a step back and see that when it happens and point it out and, hopefully encourage art in the future to not include that. That would be good. That would be helpful for the rest of society. So I want to thank these creators who took the time to do those videos and the bindery posts from Michael Laborn. I think that those were so incredibly important. This is such an interesting conversation, but also an important conversation. So thank you for being a part of it just by listening. And I hope that you'll go check out the links, Michael's bindaries down below. You can subscribe for free. Often when we have conversations about things like this, people are like, why are you always trying to cancel everybody? I'm like, first of all, cancellation is not a thing. Stop saying that. And second of all, we can have conversations about how we can do better for each other. Like, we should want to do better for each other. And Michael actually has another blog post on this about how the community can be working towards more like restorative things. So I really would like you to go follow his bindery down below. You can do the free option. There's also a paid option because it's an imprint through bindery, and he can publish books. To just read his posts, which are super well written and thought out, it's free. So go check those out below. The recent one on being more like restorative in justice in the community is really, really thoughtful. And, it kind of leads, when we talk about like, here's something that we're doing that is kind of fucked up, it kind of leads to the conversation of like, what do we do next? And I think that was just like a natural progression of this conversation that Michael was really smart to point out. And then obviously the TikToks from all of the creators I mentioned earlier, please go check them out and go follow them below. Until, TikTok gets banned, I guess. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments and questions down below, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Okay, before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons, and those are Alexander, Ashley H, Astra, Brittany Bobitney, Call Me Kodiak, Cami, Choco's Homesick for Taiwan, Chris the Horror Therapist, DJ Rocktopus, Ellie, Emerald Dodge, Aaron with 2 E's, Eric D, Jess, Joel White, John E, K, Kaleno K, Casey McKenzie, Kate W, KDM, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lady Chips, Lauren K, Lemon Jelly, Lex, Lily B, Matta Raptor, Max B, Melissa, Minby, Mixer Bunless, Alice, Peggy Luhu, Rain, Reese, SJ, Samar, Scarlett, SMK, Steph B, 3 Raccoons in a Trench Coat, Urchin Audrey, White Raven 13, and Zorvictia. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend. And I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Potato Starch Marxist patrons, and those are Alejandra, Alicia Needs a Nap, Alistair, Althea, Amanda D, Andy, Angelica, Artie the Ninth, Ava, Ballads and Bookends, Beck, Bly Lavender, Bookish by Jenna, Bookish Rabbit, Book Noodle, Bree Caitlin, Kate B, Caitlin P, Carlin, Carly, Casper, Kate W, Catherine, Kathy, Claire Online, Cole, Colleen, Corwin, Cosmic, Darius, Danielle, Darren, Desiree Michelle, Dilf Enthusiast, Dorothea is not like other girls, Drive-By Thinker, Ebby, Emily A, Emma, Fiona, Francis, Gadarn, Halia Artisan, Hannah C, Harpy Kuro, Helen P, Harissing, H. Rissing. Oh my god, you're gonna have to tell me how to say that. I'm so sorry. JM Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, Jelly V, Jello Salad, Jen Michelle, Gender Queer, Jenny G, Jessis Sue, Jill, Jojo Bookish, Juicy Wizard, Kathleen, Catherine, Katie L, Katrina, Kaylee, Kayala, Kendra, KMTB, Laughing Cat Dog, Laura is Angry, Lauren G, Lazarus Ray, Library of Scars, Lindsay, Lisa, Lisa L, LP, Luciri, Lustful Octopus, MK Martin, Maddie, Madison, Man-Eating Plant, Megan, Malara, Mentally Unwell, May, Mima Who, Molly, Myth Lesbian, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Paige P, Pandemonium, Paul, Penelope, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Plague Carrier, Pandemonium, Queen Cereal, Rachel B, Reba, Rebecca, Rebecca R, Rhea S, Ronnie, Rosie Thorns, Rowan, Sikoria, Saintbringer, Sakia Lume, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Sarah Z, Shamed, Shannon, Sean, Sophie, Stardust, T. Delegati, Talia, That Nerdy Mystic, This Is Not a Trap, what a name, Tiana, Too Thick to Work Today, Trash Can Teddy, Triple M, Tito Phoenix, Unicorn Jenny, Waves, Wobbs, Writer A. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend.